You think you know someone till they show their true colors. Her husband controlled her, belittled her, made her feel small every single day. But what he didn't know was that she wasn't alone. We switched places. Suddenly, the man who thought he had all the power was blind to what was coming. One subtle glance, one carefully placed word, and his carefully built world began to crumble. He laughed at her, dismissed her, never realizing she was no longer the woman he thought he controlled. By the end of the night, in front of his colleagues, his image shattered, his secrets exposed. He was speechless, and she was finally free. Stay tuned, because what he thought was a normal dinner came the moment he was finally shut down. I still remember the night everything changed. Not because something loud happened, but because everything was suddenly quiet. Too quiet. My sister Maya stood in my doorway with her hoodie pulled low, her hands shaking, her voice almost gone. She didn't have to say a word. I could see everything in the way she stared at the floor, as if she no longer belonged in her own skin. I didn't ask what happened. I didn't need to. Her silence was louder than any confession. She just whispered, "Can I stay here tonight?" Of course she could. She was my twin, my other half, the one person I'd protect even if the world turned against us. But as she walked inside, I noticed something small, but big enough to tear me apart inside her wrist, slightly swollen red, as if someone had grabbed her too hard. She tried to hide it under her sleeve. She tried to pretend I didn't see. But she forgot one thing. I knew her better than she knew herself. Maya, who did this? She froze, and then she loved. Of course she did. She always lied to protect everyone but herself. Nobody. I'm fine, really. But her eyes, they told the real story. Her eyes screamed. I didn't push her, not yet. She'd talk when she was ready. But the question kept burning in my mind. What did her husband, Ethan, do this time? Midnight came. She sat on the edge of my bed, staring out the window like she was afraid the night would swallow her whole. I sat beside her. Maya, I'm not letting this go. Tell me. Her lip trembled. Tears rose. And finally, she spoke. It was Ethan, she whispered. He didn't like that dinner was late. My chest tightened. He grabbed me, she continued softly, and said, I make him look weak in front of people. I didn't breathe for a moment, because the anger inside me wasn't just anger anymore. It was fire. It was gasoline waiting for a match, and Ethan had just volunteered to light it. But Maya touched my hand gently, the way she always did when she was scared I'd explode. Please, don't do anything. I don't want trouble. I just needed to get away for a night. Trouble. He was the trouble. But I held my tongue for her. Still. One sentence echoed in my mind. He said, I make him look weak. Weakness wasn't her problem. Weakness was his. Weak men hurt people they're scared of. And Ethan, he had always been scared of Maya. Her kindness, her intelligence, her strength. And now he wanted to break her. But he had no idea. He was about to meet me. She fell asleep around 2 a.m., but I didn't. I sat in the living room staring at the wall, building a plan piece by piece. And then it hit me, the idea so wild it felt perfect. A switch, not permanently, just long enough to teach him a lesson. People always mixed us up anyway. We were identical down to the dimples and eyebrows. Even our mother used to confuse us. What if Ethan thought he was talking to Maya, when really he was talking to me? What if he thought he was intimidating her, but instead he was walking into his own downfall? The thought made me smile, not a happy smile, a cold one. A smile Ethan deserved by sunrise. The plan was ready the next morning. Maya woke up slowly, eyes puffy, voice tired, but I greeted her like nothing happened because I needed her calm. I made breakfast, I said gently. She nodded, still avoiding my eyes. We sat quietly until she finally whispered, "I should go home before he gets upset again." "Or," I said carefully, "you let me go instead." She blinked, confused. "What?" I leaned closer. "Let me go to your house. Let me be you. Just for one day." She froze. "You want to switch places?" "Yes, but why?" I couldn't tell her the whole plan not yet, so I said it in my softest voice, because I want to understand what's going on. And because he won't dare touch me. Fall! Shut him down before he even tries. She shook her head instantly. No, no, this is crazy. He'll know. He always notices everything." "No, he doesn't," I said quietly. "He only notices what scares him." She swallowed. Hard. Her silence wasn't a no. It was fear wrestling with hope. And hope. Hope was slowly winning. She closed her eyes. Her voice broke. "Why are you doing this?" "Because he thinks he can break you," I whispered. "Tia has no idea. You have me." She covered her face with her hands, overwhelmed, and I gently moved her hands away. "Let me help you, Maya, please." She stared at me for a long moment. Then she nodded, a small nod, barely visible, but enough. This was the moment the story changed. This was the moment Ethan's world quietly began to crumble, because he wasn't going to face the soft, gentle, forgiving Maya anymore. He was about to face me, her twin, her shield, her mirror, her storm, and he would never forget it. Morning light filled the room as Maya slowly opened the wardrobe she'd brought from her home. Inside were her clothes, soft pastels, gentle fabrics, all the things that matched her quiet personality. I stood behind her quietly, watching her. Fingers tremble as she slid out a beige cardigan. She held it toward me. "This is what I wore yesterday. He'll expect me to look the same." I nodded. She wasn't wrong. Ethan noticed patterns, not emotions. I took the cardigan, already preparing. My voice, my posture, my expression. To become her, I needed to erase myself. Maya watched, studying every move I made. "You're really going to do this?" she whispered. "I am." She bit her lip, worry flooding her eyes. "What if something goes wrong?" I buttoned the cardigan slowly. "Then I'll handle it, not you." I turned to her and gently tucked her hair behind her ears, something I used to do when we were kids and she had nightmares. Her eyes glistened. "You're braver than me," she said softly. "No," I whispered back. "I'm just louder." "Right now you need loud." We stood facing the mirror, two identical faces, but completely different energies. She looked soft. I looked sharp. She looked scared. I looked ready. "I'll tone myself down," I told her. "Just enough to pass." She nodded, watching as I adjusted every detail. Her hairstyle, her neutral smile, her downcast eyes, even the way she held her shoulders slightly hunched, like she wanted to take less space in the world. I imitated all of it until even Maya whispered, "You look exactly like me." Then I saw something shift in her expression. It wasn't fear this time. It was guilt. "I don't want you getting into trouble because of me," she whispered. I placed a hand on her shoulder. "You are not trouble. What he's doing to you is the problem. And I'm just making sure he realizes that." She didn't argue again. When it was time to leave, Maya handed me her wedding band. "Wear it," she said helplessly. "He gets upset when I take it off." I slid the ring onto my finger. It felt cold, heavy. Not like something symbolizing love, but control. I stared at it for a moment. "How long have you felt scared of him?" I asked gently. She froze. Then her voice cracked. "Since the second year of marriage." 2 years. 2 years she'd been shrinking inside her own life while the man who claimed to love her made her afraid of being herself. My blood boiled silently. Today I whispered, "That ends." We drove to her house together, but we stopped a block away so he wouldn't see her. She grabbed my wrist right before I opened the door. "Please be careful. Don't provoke him." "Oh, I won't provoke him," I said softly. "I'll expose him." She swallowed hard. "Just Don't let him know it's you. I leaned in and kissed her forehead. He won't know a thing. But deep inside, I whispered a different promise. He will never hurt you again. Not after today. I stepped out and began walking toward the house, with her clothes, her shoes, her ring, and her pain resting quietly against my ribs. The closer I got, the heavier the air felt. The garden she once loved looked unkempt. The flowers she planted were dried up. The welcome mat was crooked, like someone had kicked it repeatedly. This wasn't a home. It was a place she survived. I stood at the door, heart steady, voice prepared. I knocked. .1, .2, .3, the door flung open. There he was. Ethan. Tall, clean-shaven, eyes sharp, too sharp, like he always expected a fight even when no one was fighting him. His face twisted instantly. "Where have you been?" he snapped. I lowered my eyes just like Maya would. "Sorry, I needed some air." Wrong answer. I knew it the moment his jaw tightened. "You didn't tell me," he said coldly. "You disappeared." I kept my gaze soft. "I'm here now." He stepped closer, towering over me. "You better not make this a habit." Inside, my rage was a beast clawing at the cage. But on the outside, I kept Maya's gentle expression. "I won't." I whispered. He scoffed and walked back inside. "Get in." I followed him, closing the door quietly. But in my mind, a door opened. The plan officially began. The house felt heavy with tension. The curtains closed, the air cold. I took a slow breath. This was where Maya had been suffering, where she cried herself to sleep, or she'd been walking on glass for years. Now, it was my battlefield. Ethan glanced at me from the living room. "You're awfully quiet." I forced a soft smile. "Just tired." He didn't believe it. He never believed anything that didn't benefit him. Then he said it. The line that revealed everything about him. "You know, when you act like this, people think something's wrong with us. You should smile more." I wanted to laugh. Smile more? For him. But I lowered my head. "I'll try." He nodded, satisfied. He loved control, and he thought he still had it. Perfect as the day went on, I played every role Maya had been forced to play. Quiet, careful, gentle, invisible. And Ethan didn't notice a thing. He didn't see my fire. He didn't see my strength. He didn't see the storm I was hiding behind my lowered eyes. Because he never actually looked at Maya. He looked at who he wanted her to be. And that blind spot was going to destroy him by afternoon. I already had what I needed. His tone, his triggers, his arrogance, his fear of being embarrassed, his obsession with controls. Wasn't just a switch anymore. This was reconnaissance. I wasn't just pretending to be Maya. I was studying him, and when I was done studying, I was going to shut him down so completely. He'd never forget the day his wife stopped being afraid of him. For the first half of the day, Ethan barely looked at me, too caught up in his own routines, his own frustrations, his own world where everyone else was background noise. But by evening, that's when the cracks finally started to show. Not in me, in him. Because Ethan, like most controlling people, couldn't stand silence unless he created it. He needed reactions. He needed fear. He needed someone to shrink so he could feel big. And when I didn't shrink even while pretending to be Maya, he sensed something was off. Not enough to suspect the switch, but enough to feel uneasy. It started small. He was at the dining table, scrolling through his phone while I prepared dinner, moving exactly the way Maya would. Quiet steps, careful hands. Shoulders slightly bent as if apologizing for existing. But he kept glancing up once, twice, the third time. His eyebrows narrowed. "You're moving differently today," he said casually, his voice dripping with curiosity. Wrapped in accusation, I froze for half a second. Not out of fear, out of calculation. I softened my stance instantly. "Oh," I said lightly, keeping Maya's soft tone. "My back aches a little, that's all." He leaned back in his chair. He didn't believe me. But he didn't know what else to think. His eyes followed every step I took, like he was trying to reconnect dots that never belonged to. The same picture as I placed the plates on the table, he made another comment. "You're not clumsy like usual." I stopped. A subtle stop. It's just long enough for him to notice, but not long enough to raise alarm. "I'm just more focused today," I whispered. He chuckled a soft, mocking sound. "Yeah, trying to impress me." Inside, my blood simmered. But outside, I lowered my eyes just like Maya would. "If it makes you happy," I replied gently. He smirked, satisfied. That smirk told me everything. This wasn't love. This wasn't marriage. This was a man who'd built his power on the belief that Maya would always bend and never break. He had no idea I wasn't bending. I was measuring, calculating, waiting. Halfway through dinner, he spoke again, this time more direct. "You didn't ask me about my day." His tone was stiff, almost offended. I blinked, channeling Maya's polite surprise. "I thought you were busy. Didn't want to bother you." He put down his fork sharply. "You're supposed to ask Maya. It's basic respect." There it was. The entitlement. The neediness. The invisible chains he'd been wrapping around her for years. I nodded gently. "Sorry. How was your day?" His chest puffed a little, pleased. "It was fine," he said. "A lot of work, people being useless as usual." Of course, everyone around him was useless, because that was the only way he could feel important. I let him talk. I let him complain about coworkers he secretly envied. I let him rant about traffic like it personally offended him. I let him unload his ego at the table like he did every night with Maya. But I was listening for one thing, his weakness. People like Ethan always had one, and it always hid behind their loudest complaints. After 10 minutes, found it. We had a team meeting today, and my boss didn't even acknowledge my idea. He just nodded and moved on. It's like people don't see how valuable I am. There it was. He needed validation more than he needed control, and I filed that away like ammunition after dinner. He dropped another test. He sat on the couch and said, without looking at me, "Make me tea." I breathed slowly. Not because it bothered me I expected this, but because I knew Maya probably jumped up the moment he said things like that. I moved a little slower on purpose, not enough to challenge him, just enough to confuse him. He glanced over. "Everything okay?" "Tired," I repeated softly. He stared for a moment too long, analyzing, studying, sensing something he couldn't name. Then he narrowed his eyes slightly. "Come sit." I sat carefully, just like Maya would, small, quiet, leaving space, but Ethan shifted closer. Too close, I didn't flinch. Maya would have, but I didn't. And that was the moment Ethan truly felt the first spark of confusion. "You're calm today?" he said suspiciously. I kept my voice low and steady. "I'm trying to be better." He studied my face, every detail, every blink. "What changed?" "You did. You hurt my sister. And today is the last day you'll ever feel big near her." But I didn't say that. I just smiled softly. "Maybe I realized I can't keep upsetting you." His shoulders relaxed. He believed that instantly, because in Ethan's mind, the world revolved around him. And so did Maya. And so should I if I were her. But then came the moment that told me exactly what kind of man he was. He put his hand on my arm, not roughly, not angrily, but with ownership, like his hand was a brand, like Maya belonged to him. I didn't move, but I didn't melt into him either. He felt the stiffness. He sensed the missing fear, the missing submission. He pulled back slightly, eyes narrowing again. "What's gotten into you?" he asked. "You're different." I forced a delicate smile. "A good different." He hesitated, then nodded. Maybe, that maybe wasn't trust. 'Twas ego wrestling with suspicion. Good, perfect. Let him suspect something he couldn't explain. Let him question himself. Let him feel the ground tremble without knowing why. Because when a man like Ethan doubts his instincts, that's when he's weakest. Later that night, after he went to shower, I stood in the hallway. Looking at the framed photo from their wedding, Maya looked beautiful, radiant, hopeful. Ethan looked proud, not proud of her, proud of owning her. I touched the frame gently. "I'm getting her back," I whispered, "no matter what." And then, as if fate wanted to push the story forward, I noticed something. A small crack in the photo frame, barely visible, but definitely there. My heart tightened. Did he throw something? Did he shove the frame? Dies. Did? He'll lose control. Whatever caused it, one thing was certain. This house had seen her tears. This house had heard her silent cries. This house had been a prison, disguised as a marriage. And by the time I was done, this house would watch him crumble. I spent the night on Maya's side of the bed, curled, quiet, perfectly in character. Ethan turned off the lights without asking if I was okay, without checking if I needed anything. He simply lay down and closed his eyes like the world owed him rest, but I didn't sleep. I stayed awake feeling the tension in the air. It's the same tension my sister had lived with for 2 years. A silent pressure, a heaviness, a fear you couldn't name but always felt. And now that I was here, living it for just one night, I finally understood. Maya wasn't weak. She was surviving, and that meant she was stronger than Ethan ever realized. Around 2 a.m., Ethan turned onto his side and mumbled something half asleep. "Maya, don't embarrass me tomorrow." I froze. Embarrass him? Tomorrow? What was tomorrow? He said another word, barely audible. Dinner. Dinner. I scanned Maya's memories she'd told me nothing about dinner plans, which meant he didn't tell her. Of course he didn't. Controlling men love surprises as long as they were the ones surprising. They love springing plans on you last minute so you wouldn't have time to prepare, or worse, time to resist. My voice stayed soft. "What dinner?" I whispered. He grunted, irritated even in sleep. "With my boss and his wife. Don't ruin it." A cold smile touched my lips. So that was his weakness. Professional image, status, being admired. Don't ruin it. That one sentence explains so much. Ethan wasn't just afraid of losing control at home. He was terrified of looking small outside, and he'd been using Maya as a prop. Someone to smile on command. Someone to sit quietly. Someone to prove he was in control of his life. Tomorrow was going to be interesting. By morning, Ethan had forgotten the half-asleep conversation. He woke up irritable as usual, muttering at his alarm clock, complaining about the cold floor, acting like the world owed him comfort. I stayed soft. I stayed quiet. I stayed Maya dot for now. Over breakfast, he dropped the news like a casual afterthought. "We have a dinner tonight, 8 p.m. My boss wants to meet us." Gave the same innocent blink Maya would have given tonight. "You didn't tell me." He frowned. "Yes, I did." "No, you didn't." Wrong answer. He slammed the butter knife onto the table. "I did tell you. Don't start this again." Inside, I stayed ice cold. Outside, I softened immediately. "Okay. Sorry, maybe I forgot." He exhaled, sharply angry, but satisfied. He loved when Maya backed down. It made him feel right even when he wasn't. But he didn't see the calculation behind my lowered eyes. Tonight was the night. He sent me a list of what to wear. Hair tied, neutral makeup, no bright colors, no opinions unless asked. Smile when spoken to. Don't interrupt, don't bring up personal issues. It was all there in his messages. Proof of the person he had sculpted Maya into. A shadow, not a wife, a puppet. I read the list slowly, then smiled. He wanted a puppet. He was going to get a puppet, but not the kind he could control. Around noon, he left for work. The second the door shut, I exhaled long and deep. Then I texted Maya.me. "He has a dinner with his boss tonight. Did you know Maya?" "No, he didn't tell me." "Hates when I speak around his boss.me, I guessed." "I'll handle it." There was a long pause. Then she replied, "Maya, are you sure? This sounds risky.me." Exactly. Ada. And he needs to feel risk for the first time. She didn't respond right away. I knew she was pacing, torn between fear and wanting justice. Finally, one message arrived short, but filled with trust. Maya. Please be careful. I smiled softly. Me. Always. Once she was assured, I returned to gathering information, subtle things. Around the house, Ethan didn't realize we're exposing him. Like the financial file on his desk, titled Promotion Tracking Quarter 4. Ah, so he was aiming for a promotion. And tonight's dinner mattered. Not because he wanted to show Maya off, but because he wanted to show he had a perfect life. Good, the higher the stakes. For him, the better. Next. I moved through the home the way Maya never could, with confidence. I opened drawers she probably wasn't allowed to open. I checked cabinets he kept to himself. I looked at the mail he kept hidden under magazines. And that's when I found something interesting. A bill overdue. Big amount. Ethan wasn't as stable as he pretended. Another weakness: arrogant men loved pretending their world was solid. But if you looked closely, you always found the cracks. Tonight, all those cracks would widen. When Ethan came home earlier than usual, he said, "Start getting ready." His tone wasn't a request, it was an order. I nodded softly. Inside my mind, fire roared, but my face remained exactly how he expected. He watched me carefully as I got dressed. He examined me like I was an accessory, a piece of furniture he wanted to polish before showing off. He even adjusted my necklace, tilting his head with critical eyes. Try not to talk too much tonight. My boss appreciates quiet women. Quiet women. Meaning women who don't outshine him. I stayed gentle, stayed silent, stayed Maya. But inside, I whispered, "Tonight, Ethan, you're going to meet a version of Maya you never imagined." Before we left, something happened, something small but revealing. Ethan stood in front of the mirror, fixing his collar. And I heard him whisper to himself, "This is my chance. Don't screw it up." There. His fear. His greatest insecurity. He didn't fear losing Maya. He didn't fear hurting her. He didn't fear consequences. He feared embarrassment. He feared being small. He feared being seen for who he really was. A man who needed control because he had none. I smiled at his reflection before he noticed. "Ready?" I asked sweetly. He nodded and we walked out the door, toward the dinner that would change. Everything, not because of what he'd say, but because of what I would finally let him see. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was scared, but because for the first time I wasn't helpless anymore. Lena lay beside me, exhausted from crying, but her breathing was finally steady. She looked lighter, safer, almost like she knew something had shifted, like she could finally rest knowing she wasn't alone. But as morning came, the real challenge began, because today I had to be Lena and Daniel. He had no idea that the woman walking back into his life was not the one he once controlled, but the one ready to make him face himself. I stood in front of the mirror, wearing a soft beige sweater Lena always wore, her hair clip, her perfume, her quiet smile. But behind that smile, it's me, Avalon, the sister who never forgot. The sister who didn't break when I walked into her old house, the house he once made her tiptoe through. I felt a wave of anger rise in my chest. This wasn't a home, it was a place built on fear. The pictures on the walls were crooked, like someone had knocked into them during an argument. A mug was shattered near the sink, a jacket thrown on the floor. It smelled like control, like someone who didn't think consequences were real. Then I heard his footsteps, slow, heavy, confident, like he owned everything he walked toward, including her. "Ava," he stopped. His voice softened. "Lena." I turned around. I kept my expression small, the way Lena once did, but I made sure my eyes held something new. Strength he didn't notice. "Not yet. You're back early," he said, scratching his jaw. "Did you think about what I said last night?" I tilted my head. "Actually, yeah, I did. He smirked, that same smirk Lena told me about. The one he used before turning things around on her. The one he used before twisting words. "Good," he said, "'cause I think we both overreacted." I smiled faintly. "You did?" "Yes." His eyes widened. He wasn't expecting that. Asterisk, he followed me into the kitchen, talking like nothing had ever happened. "You know how you get emotional sometimes?" "Baby," he said, grabbing his coffee mug. "And I get stressed from work. We just need to communicate." "Better," I finished calmly. He blinked, caught off guard again. Yeah, exactly. That's what I always say. He never said that. Lena told me the truth. He never communicated. He only controlled. But I let him talk, ramble, try to. Convince me the problem was just emotions. Then, slowly, steadily, I shifted the tone. "So, Daniel," I said quietly, "do you ever wonder how you'd feel? Someone treated you the way you treat me?" The mug nearly slipped from his hand. "What?" His voice cracked. The first crack, tiny, but beautiful. "You heard me?" I said softly. He wasn't used to questions. He was used to submission. I walked past him, brushing his shoulder lightly, like I didn't mean to challenge him. But every part of my movement was. "Intentional breakfast?" I asked. "Or are you going to start lecturing me again?" His jaw tightened. Another crack. Asterisk, the first half of the day, I stayed quiet. Acted normal. Normal for Lena. But I added just enough confidence to make him uneasy. Little things. I looked him in the eye when he spoke. I didn't flinch when he raised his voice. I didn't rush to say sorry before he even finished accusing me. And slowly, his confidence began slipping. He kept looking at me like I was familiar, yet foreign. Like I was Lena, but not the Lena he could see. MROL. At lunch, he finally asked, "Why are you acting different today?" I shrugged. Maybe I just finally see things more clearly. His forehead wrinkled. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said gently, "that maybe everything you call my fault isn't." His throat moved, swallowing something thick. Guilt or fear. I wasn't sure. "You're being dramatic," he muttered. "No," I whispered. "I'm being honest." That word hit him harder than anything else, 'cause he wasn't used to honesty. He was used to obedience. Asterisk later that evening as we sat in the living room. He sighed loudly and rubbed his temples, a show of frustration he expected me to respond to. But I didn't ask what's wrong. Or did I do something? I simply kept sipping water. That alone irritated him. "You know," he said harshly, "I don't like this new attitude." "But it's the real me," I replied. He laughed, but it was nervous, shaky, uncertain. "The real you is softer," he said. I looked at him with the calmest smile. "No, Daniel. The real me is someone you don't get to define. Okay?" And with that sentence, his face froze. His breath stalled. His entire posture stiffened. Not because it was loud, not because it was insulting, but because it was the first time Lena, or who he thought was Lena, refused to be shaped by him. "You're talking back a lot today," he said slowly. "You sure you're feeling okay?" "I'm feeling better than I have in years," I answered. "And that's the scary part. For you, isn't it?" He stood suddenly, too fast, too defensive. "What is going on with you?" he snapped. I leaned back, crossing my arms, a move Lena never did. "Maybe I'm waking up," I whispered. His eyes darted around the room, as if looking for something familiar in this new version of me. But he couldn't find it, because he wasn't seeing Lena anymore. He was seeing the woman who came to end his reign of control. Asterisk, he stepped closer, lowering his voice like he always did when threats hid behind sweetness. "You're forgetting your place," he whispered. I didn't move, didn't shrink, didn't apologize. "My place," I said softly, "is anywhere you can't control." His breath hitched, and that's when I knew he felt it. The shift. The loss of power. The beginning of his downfall. Because for the first time in his life, Daniel wasn't facing Lena. He was facing the woman who loved her enough to fight back. And this was only the start. I woke up the next morning with a clear mission. Yesterday was about shaking him. Today was about exposing him. Because every controlling man hides something, a lie, a secret, a truth they hope never reaches daylight. And Daniel, he wasn't an exception. It was a puzzle waiting to fall apart. Asterisk, he was in the shower when I heard it, his phone buzzing relentlessly on the nightstand. At first, I ignored it. Then I noticed something strange. The same name flashed over and over. Caleb Work, but the texts weren't work-related. The first preview read, "You didn't delete the messages, right?" Then another, "If she finds out, it's over for both of us." My heartbeat quickened. My pulse sharpened. My instincts screamed. This wasn't just about him being a terrible husband. This was something bigger. I picked up the phone, not unlocking it, just watching the notifications roll in. Another one popped. "Daniel, answer me." Did she see anything? My breath hitched. She knew well. "Lena, this wasn't an affair. This was something else, something worse." But before I could read more, the water shut off. I placed the phone exactly how it was and moved away just in time. He stepped out, towel around his waist, glancing at his phone instantly. And the moment he read the notifications, his face drained. Not confusion, not concern. Fear. His shoulders tensed. His hand trembled slightly. It typed quickly, hiding the screen from me. Then he forced a smile. "You slept okay?" he asked, to calmly dot. He was rattled, and he had no idea that rattled was exactly what I wanted him to be. Asterisk, later in the afternoon, he stepped outside to take a call. He never took work calls outside, so I followed. Quiet, barefoot, just close enough to hear through the cracked kitchen window. "Caleb, relax," he whispered harshly. "I told you." She didn't see anything. A pause. Then lower. No, the files are hidden. She doesn't even know what she's looking at. Files, hidden files. What files? I leaned closer. "If this blows up, they'll come for us both," Daniel hissed. "And I'm not going down for something you screwed up." My breath stilled. This wasn't just a personal betrayal. This was criminal, secretive, dangerous. Something Lena never knew existed. Something Daniel hoped would stay buried. He ended the call abruptly and exhaled the longest, deepest sigh I'd ever heard from him, a sigh full of dread. Then he walked back inside like he wasn't carrying a grenade in his pocket, but I saw it now. He was hiding something that could ruin him. And maybe more. Asterisk, but the universe always leaves clues, doesn't it? That evening, while he was out running errands, I walked through the house with purpose. I inspected the spaces he didn't want Lena touching: his office, his drawers, his locked cabinets. But one thing felt off immediately. A closet near the hallway. Small, narrow. One Lena said he always kept locked because of old tools. But the lock wasn't normal. It wasn't a basic door lock. It was a numeric keypad. A keypad for old tools, right? Curiosity buzzed in my veins. I touched the keypad and it lit up red. 4 digits needed. Only 4. I thought of the obvious ones first. His birthday? No. Lena's birthday. No, their anniversary. Also no. Then something hit me. Caleb. His messages. His panicked dates associated with guilt stick in the mind. So I tried to guess the date he got fired from his last job. The one he blamed on office politics. Green light. My stomach flipped. The door clicked open, and what I saw inside wasn't tools, wasn't old boxes, wasn't dusty junk. It was a small metal safe, a locked drawer cabinet, and a file box labeled only with a single letter: CC. Caleb. My hands trembled. The truth was right here, inches away. But before I could touch anything, the front door opened. My heart dropped. His footsteps were heavy and fast. I shut the closet quickly, but not fast enough. His voice cracked through the hallway like a whip. What are you doing? I turned slowly, keeping my breath steady. Oh, I said lightly, I was just cleaning. He stared at the closet door, then at me, then back at the door. Cleaning. His voice was ice. Yes. Since when do you clean that side of the hallway? He stepped closer. It's close. For the first time. I felt the true tension Lena lived with. That invisible line where one wrong word could set him off. But I wasn't her. I wasn't afraid. I thought I'd do something helpful, I replied. He exhaled sharply, trying to seem calm, but I saw his hands trembling. You have no reason to be in that closet, he said. I was just wiping the floor, I insisted. His jaw clenched. You didn't try to open it? I let my face soften, as though hurt by the suspicion. I don't even know the code, Daniel. A beat. 2, 3, dot. He didn't believe me, but he wanted to believe me. Stay away from that closet, he said harshly. For your own good. My breath stilled at the phrasing. Your own good. That wasn't a warning. It was a threat. He walked away. But not before brushing past me with a cold shoulder. A silent reminder that he was watching. But what he didn't know was he was already losing Dot. Because now I knew there was something in that closet he would burn the world to hide, and I would uncover every inch of it. Asterisk, that night. Daniel barely looked at me, barely spoke, barely breathed normally. He pretended to watch TV, but his knee bounced non-stop. His hand tapped the couch repeatedly. He wasn't calm. He wasn't in control. He was scared, deeply scared. And fear makes people careless. Around 11 p.m., he finally went to bed. But he didn't sleep. I heard the mattress shift for hours. He kept checking the hallway, checking the closet, checking me as if I were a ghost haunting him. As if he knew the life he'd built on secrets was about to crumble. And he was right. Because, now, it wasn't just about revenge for Lena Dot. It was about revealing the truth he buried. The truth that could destroy him more than anything we could ever plan. By morning, I knew exactly what I had to do. Yesterday had shaken him. Today, I would set the stage for his undoing. Because Daniel wasn't just arrogant. He was predictable. And predictable men leave trails that anyone paying attention can follow. Asterisk. I started with what I knew. The phone messages between Daniel and Caleb. The hidden closet, the first glimpse of what he was desperate to hide. The dinner tonight, his biggest vanity moment, a perfect public stage. His ego fragile, easily manipulated, convinced that control was his natural right. Everything else would fall into place. Once I played my hand, I opened the closet door. Carefully this morning, just long enough to peek at the files inside. Bank statements, receipts, emails. Nothing criminal to the police, but proof of manipulation. Manipulation of Lena, of colleagues, of anyone who trusted him blindly. The realization hit me. Daniel wasn't dangerous because he was strong. He was dangerous because he had been unseen for so long. And now he was about to be seen. The day felt slow, measured, deliberate. I made breakfast exactly like Lena would. Soft toast, carefully brewed coffee, a gentle smile as I placed it on the table. Daniel watched, his eyes flickering, noticing details. Testing reactions. Perfect. I had to make him think he still had control, because only then would his ego make him step into the trap willingly. Don't forget the dinner, he said. His tone was sharp, but his confidence had small cracks. You don't want me looking bad in front of my boss? I replied softly. I wouldn't dream of it. Inside, I smiled. Perfect setup. He had no idea how much danger his arrogance was about to bring. Asterisk, the morning passed with careful observation. I noticed how he arranged the living room, how he obsessively checked the silverware, how he reheated his tie in front of the mirror, how he glanced at his reflection every few minutes, making sure the world believed the story he'd written for himself. I made small comments, nothing challenging, nothing accusatory. Maybe the tie looks better off-center, I suggested softly. He frowned, adjusted it again, mutters under his breath. The first sign of the storm brewing. Then, when he left for a midday meeting, I started arranging the pieces for the evening. The dinner was going to be the stage, yes. But first, he needed to feel miscalculated confidence. I left a few accidental hints. Files left where he could see, notes on the table, receipts with slight errors in his handwriting. All subtle. All designed to make him doubt. Asterisk, I texted him innocuously. Hope everything's ready for tonight. Don't want anything out of place. Its reply? Of course, Lena. Don't worry. Perfect. See, he thought he still controlled everything. He didn't know the storm was sitting across the table, pretending to be soft, quiet Lena. Every little glance, every small error, every trace I left would slowly unravel him. I called Lena briefly, giving her small instructions. Keep out of sight. Stay ready for my signal. Watch and learn. Her texts were anxious. Be careful. I smiled, typing. Back. This is the part we've waited for. Don't worry. He won't know what hit him. And truly, he, WOULD, and single quotes by 6 p.m., Daniel was pacing in the living room, perfectly dressed. Tie straightened, shirt pressed, shoes polished to reflect his vanity. I appeared calm, smiling, delicate. Everything Lena was expected to be. You. Ready? I asked softly. Yes, he replied, brushing past me. He thought he was taking Lena out to impress his boss. He didn't know he was walking into a mirror of his own arrogance. Dinner reservations were nearby. It's the perfect public stage, where everyone would see him for who he truly was and where he had no control. I glanced at him as he tied his tie for the third time. The twitch in his jaw was my favorite part. Inside, he thought he was in command. Outside, the room reflected confidence and composure. But inside me, the plan was ready. Every step, every word, every subtle exposure of his flaws was poised to hit him when the moment was perfect. And tonight, when he finally faced the consequences of years of manipulation, he would never forget it because the storm had just begun. The night had arrived. The air was crisp, quiet, almost like it was holding its breath. Daniel and I stepped into the restaurant, a place he believed reflected his success, his charm, his control. I walked beside him, soft, composed, delicate. Just Lena, just the obedient, quiet wife he thought he had. And yet, every step I took carried a weight he didn't notice. The weight of truth waiting to land. Asterisk, we were shown to a corner table near the back. Not too far from the door, not too close to the window. It's perfect for observation. Daniel immediately began to talk about his achievements, the promotion he wanted, the project he led, the people who owed him respect. I smiled quietly, sipping, my water nodding just enough to seem attentive. But then I began, subtly shifting the conversation. Oh, that sounds challenging, I said softly. Did anyone else handle parts of it, or did you do it all alone? Daniel froze, not because it was rude, not because it was public, but because it questioned his narrative, the one where he was flawless, indispensable, in control. They helped a little, he said, trying to keep his tone casual. Mostly, it was me. I smiled faintly, letting my words linger. Must be exhausting, carrying everything on your own. The first real crack in his armor. And he didn't even notice it yet? Asterisk, as the appetizers arrived, I decided to test him further. You know? Daniel, I said softly, leaning in slightly, I heard about the project deadline issue last month. That must have been stressful. How did you manage it? He blinked, his jaw tightened. This was the first time someone outside his world had questioned him publicly. Well, he started, flustered. You know, I handled it. Everything's fine. I tilted my head, just a small gesture, and added softly. Seems like not everything went as smoothly as you say. The twitch in his eye, the tension in his shoulders. I could feel it from across the table. Perfect. Exactly what I needed. Asterisk. Then came the moment I had been planning all day. Subtle public exposure. I placed my napkin slightly askew. He reached to fix it immediately. I left it. He corrected the tableware again. His eyes flicked toward me, suspicious. "Oh, I'm sorry," I whispered softly. I didn't realize it mattered so much. His face hardened. Everyone around us saw a polite, calm couple, but he felt undermined. And that's the key. A man like Daniel, obsessed with control, is unraveling when his control is questioned quietly. Publicly. INVISIBLY. The main course arrived. And with it, the perfect moment. I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice so only he could hear. "You're not as perfect as you think, are you?" He froze, choke swallowed, pulse spiking. "What? What are you talking about?" he muttered. Smiled faintly, looking down at my plate, voice soft and calm. "I mean, the things you hide, the people you manipulate, the secrets you think no one notices." His hand trembled slightly as he reached for his glass. He wanted to regain composure, but he couldn't. You don't know what you're talking about," he stammered. I raised my eyes to meet his. "Actually, I do." Asterisk. The final piece of the plan arrived, the proof he never wanted anyone to see. I subtly pulled out the folder I had taken from the closet earlier. Opened it just enough so that the edge of the pages showed receipts, emails, financial notes, everything pointing to his manipulations. He saw it, just enough. Not all at once, panic struck his face. Not rage, not anger, fear. The fear of exposure. The fear of the world finally seeing what he had done behind closed doors. Where did you get that?" he whispered. I smiled faintly. "From where it's always been. Right where you thought no one would ever look." Subtle gasps from nearby tables were perfect background noise. No one knew the details, but everyone noticed his discomfort, and that was the beginning of the end. He tried to laugh it off, tried to redirect, tried to regain control. "Lena, this is ridiculous," he said, voice tight. Don't make a scene." I looked calm, soft, collected. "Making a scene," I whispered. "This isn't a scene. This is the truth." His hands shook slightly over his utensils. His boss probably noticed. His ego shattered quietly but completely in that small public restaurant. No yelling, no confrontation, just exposure. Just truth. And the man who had spent years controlling, belittling, hiding was now completely powerless. Because power is only real when no one can see your cracks. And tonight, every crack was visible. Asterisk. As we left the restaurant, I didn't need to say a word. His shoulders slumped, his jaw unclenched, his face pale. The lesson was clear. Control built on fear doesn't last. Secrets don't stay buried forever. And a person who has been silenced for too long can finally stand up, speak, and reveal the truth in a way no one can ignore. I gave Lena a text as we stepped into the car. "Me, it's done. You're free now." Her reply came instantly. "Lena, I can't believe it. Thank you." And I smiled softly, because the night wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice, truth, and finally, peace. Asterisk. The night ended quietly, but its impact lingered. Daniel sat in stunned silence in the car, unable to speak. He had faced something he hadn't prepared for. Not shouted, not forced, but revealed quietly and deliberately. And for the first time, I saw him not as the powerful, controlling man he had always pretended to be, but as someone fragile, flawed, and fully accountable. Asterisk. When we returned home, the house felt different. Air felt lighter. Walls didn't feel oppressive anymore. Lena walked through the hallway, head high, for the first time in years. She didn't say much. She didn't need to. The silence itself was loud. It said everything. Daniel, meanwhile, stayed quiet in the living room, avoiding eye contact. He had no words, no excuses. No defenses. It was the power of truth at work. Asterisk the next morning, Lena and I sat at the kitchen table, coffee in hand. For the first time, she spoke openly without fear. "I can't believe how brave you were," she whispered. "I always thought I had to bend to survive. God, you showed me something different. You showed me that standing up doesn't have to be loud, it just has to be deliberate." I smiled softly, taking her hand. "You've been strong all along," I said. "I just gave you the space to see it in yourself." She nodded, tears welling up, but this time they were relief, not fear. The house, once a prison of control and manipulation, had transformed into a space of possibility, empowerment, and honesty. Asterisk Daniel didn't speak that day. He kept to himself. The lesson was clear. Control built on manipulation and fear always crumbles. Power wielded over others instead of earned through respect cannot last. And the truth, even if silent for years, finds a way to surface, exposing those who thought they were untouchable. I left him with that knowledge, letting the consequences settle quietly. No drama, no revenge-fueled chaos. Just the weight of reality. And in that weight, he finally understood what he had lost. Not just power over Lena, but the respect of anyone who witnessed his arrogance unravel. Asterisk Lena and I spent the next few days cleaning, organizing, and reclaiming the spaces Daniel had once controlled. Every drawer, every room, every corner became a symbol of freedom. I've realized something important. Revenge isn't always about striking back with force. Sometimes it's about strategy, patience, and revealing the truth at the right moment, and freedom isn't about loud declarations. It's about reclaiming control over your own life, step by step, silently, but decisively by the end of the week. Lena had booked a small trip, just the two of us, to remind herself of her own strength. Asterisk, as I watched her pack, I felt a surge of pride. Not for myself, but for her. For the first time, she wasn't living in fear. She wasn't apologizing for someone else's mistakes. She wasn't shrinking to fit a mold that didn't belong to her. She was herself. And that is the ultimate justice. When someone regains their voice, their confidence, and their life. No words, no revenge, no punishment could match the power of that transformation. Asterisk Daniel had been exposed, yes. But more importantly, Lena had been freed. The moral of this story is simple. Those who control through fear will always leave traces. Truth, when delivered carefully and deliberately, cannot be ignored. Strength is not loud or aggressive. It is strategic, patient, and unwavering. Sometimes, the greatest victory isn't hurting the one who hurt you. It's empowering. The one who was silenced, Lena, finally understood this. I finally understood this. And anyone watching this story, anyone who has ever felt trapped, underestimated, or betrayed, can understand this too. Asterisk, as the sun rose over the quiet neighborhood, Lena and I stood by the window, looking out. The house, once filled with tension, felt alive again. I turned to her and whispered, "You don't need to fear anymore. You never did. You just needed to see it." She smiled, genuinely this time. Her eyes sparkled with something I hadn't seen before. Freedom, and in that moment, knew. The story wasn't just about revenge. It wasn't about exposing secrets or shattering a facade. It was about restoring life to someone who had lost. It taught that, in the end, is far more powerful than any punishment. Asterisk.